Good morning, it's Wednesday, and this is Norma Cowie here for Norma Talks Metaphysics. I had one of my regular, what would you call them? Watchers? No, I'm a person that watches the show a lot, send me an email asking if I would address some questions he had. And so I am going to do that today. And giving my own thoughts. I haven't done a lot of research and like reading other things. Excuse me. I'm just going to basically read you what he wrote, and then I'm going to address that. So the first thing he talks about is divine timing. Is there such a thing, or does timing depend on the decisions and the people involved make? And then and timing also depends on how long things naturally take to manifest in this realm, right? Divine timing really basically means, I think, exactly as he says here, on the decisions that the people involved make. We know that we create our own reality. At least that's what we say, and that's true based on how we think, how we feel, how we respond. All of those things go into making the pattern. Our thinking is really important, but the decisions are the most important, because decisions have kind of you might want to say, a thickening, a creation of being. And so we call it, and it's not a term I hear a lot of, divine, it's in divine timing. It's at the thought of the bigger picture of the divine having its own time. And maybe it does. I have not thought that myself. What I have thought and what I have found out for myself is that it is really important, how I think, because that goes out to my vibrational rate. No, I kind of say every second you have a thought, but actually we think much, much quicker than that. And that goes to create the vibrational rate. Now, as we know, sometimes our thoughts are pluses, sometimes our thoughts are not so plus. And so there is a mean line, or a balancing point, where our thoughts kind of meet to create the vibration in the creation. I like his second sentence, and timing also depends on how long things naturally take to manifest in this realm. And then he says, right? Asking the question, is that right? I think that's actually more accurate. Oh, excuse me. How long does your thinking process go out there to manifest with everything else that's going around? When you think of all the people that are on this planet, and I think in my interest, I talked about the difference, but a little bit different between the West and the East. We have a different perception of things. And so to me, really, I'm talking about in the West here, because that's where I live and haven't really visited the East. Although I have studied some of the, you might say, the religious elements of that. It's not really where my main focus has been. So we want to look at this in a way. Now, I'm going to take this first sentence here. Again, is there such a thing, or does timing, I think he's talking about divine timing, depend on the decisions and the people involved make? Yes. So this is where your leaders who come out, and especially the religious leaders, come out and say, this is how it is, and this is how it's supposed to be. What happens, there's a section of the population that grabs hold of that idea, whatever it may be. And so that gives it a lot of energy, because it is an accepted norm of how things would be. So there is this belief that goes out. Now, what I have found, we have a lot of news, we have a lot of TV elements where people sit down and listen and watch, and what is being, some people say, being fed to us, we don't always have an individual idea about it. We just go along and we accept what's being told to us, whether it is actually correct or not. And that's the one thing most of us who live don't know. But those of us that work within our own thinking power to create our world, is that it will depend on the decisions that you make. The decisions that you make are the, what would you say, the turning points, so I have a better way of explaining it, I think. Think of your thinking as a line, and there's the line of where you're going. It may go up, it may go down, it may go straight. But every now and again, you'll make a decision. I'm going to do this. I'm going to think this. I'm going to experience this or that. And what that does is put in the line a knot. So you have a little bundle of decision. The decisions over time is what ends up collecting in order to create for yourself and also for the main section of people. Now, the second sentence was, and timing also depends on how long things naturally take to manifest in this realm. So now we're talking about realms and places. And again, I think it's just a matter of how many people collectively come together to believe or want or desire a certain thing. So in one's life, you can desire something, you can decide to have something, but it may not manifest. I've been fortunate in my world when I really sit down to want to manifest something, I've learned how to do it. It's difficult to explain to people exactly how that works, because it seems to me, as I have talked about often, miracles happening, like certain miracles taking place out of nowhere. Sometimes things I wasn't even thinking, but it was like the universe knew I needed places to live, money, other things, opportunity, excuse me. And so it's like, what is each person's personal vibration? What is their belief system? Do they let go? Like I found very often, when you have a thought of what you want, if you let it go, kind of floating around out there, it manifests. But when you really, I'm tired about it. I want this, I want this, I want this, I want this. It's like there's no room for the universe to work. So that becomes an incredibly, whoops. Oh dear. My mouth is running away from me today. Mainly because this is not normally a topic I talk on. So I'm scrambling in my brain. What do I want to say? How do I want to put this? And it's not something you can rehearse and learn. I don't work that way. But anyway, so it's like what I found is if you put an emphasis in the thought processes, and that's the decisional point. It's like making a knot. Bang. And then you let it go. If you have been, I guess, sincere and desiring and wanting, and you decide, you don't know how it's going to show up, but it'll show up, and you let it go, the universe then works with it. So divine timing is not something that's really planned. It's like, how does then the divineness, whatever you want to call that, energy, God, Jesus, love, whatever you want to call it, can work. The magic. What our magic is, being clear about what we want, very clear. That's where, for me, the spiritual mind treatments work. as on Monday nights, we do mental mind treatments, they work because you set an intention in the divineness of things and you let it go. And magic happens. And that's the key, is to let it go. I'm just realizing in a way now is that when I'm thinking about all the things, that some things happened I didn't even know I was requesting, but I needed in my life. And it's like you're part of that bigger picture of spiritual awareness of the divine being. So how do we talk about divine timing? Divine timing occurs in a specific way. And but it does decide on decisions. You've got to decide, but then I find that it's when you let it go. If you concentrate too tight, there's no room for the universe to move. So so that part. Now there's also actually there's 3 parts in here. The second part, he says, what is more important? Individual well-being or collective well-being? Can the collective be happy if the individual is not? Oh yeah, the collective can be happy if the individual is not. The individual is operating on their own elements. Now, when it comes to the collective, that's everybody. So often the collective may not be happy, but that's because there's a lot of individuals who are not happy. And how do you become not unhappy is based on elements that are going on, what is specifically happening, all the different things that are taking place. So what I want to say about this, what is more important, individual well-being or collective well-being? And he says, can the collective be happy if the individual is not? Definitely. And the individual in part of the collective doesn't care. Well, we hope that they do care, but what I'm just taking that is that what this one over here is not happy. Why is that person not happy? Because they're not following probably the collective ideas. And when we have a collective that everyone is thinking the same way, then it's sort of like, if you're in tune, it's kind of, ever seen, I used to watch, my father used to like watching marching girls years ago, when we would go watch the marching, and they're marching all in sync. Very much like you see soldiers and when they have parades and things like that. But they were marching in sync and doing all sorts of designs. So that is a collective element of movement, all the same, being the same, doing the same, working the same. The collective in that form is happy. But perhaps internally, when they're not doing that collective marching, they're not happy. Or one of them isn't happy, whatever. But usually when they're in form, worked. Now, I used to dance when I was young for several years. And when we were learning the dances from our teacher, we would be able to be, as a collective, creating these dances. I was feeling, actually, I did very well at that. And I often had my own dances without anybody. And sometimes the collective wasn't so happy that I was dancing and some of them weren't. See, it's about concept and how you feel that you belong. And if you support the basic big idea of everything, it's not an easy thought. All of us are in our own thinking and our own meaning. So it's like this last sentence, can the collective be happy if the individual is not? Yes. Totally. Totally, the collective can be happy because it is like a major vote or a main leaning. And if you're going to be, often you don't believe what everybody else believes. There's always somebody that doesn't believe what the collective believes. And where does the collective get their ideas? So there is, again, that whole element of where do we fit in? Do we go along with all the ideas of the larger collective, or as many as over the years have been different? We have different ideas. We see things from a different perspective. And thank goodness, as far as I'm concerned. But anyway, now the third thing is why are desires demonized even in the spiritual community? Oh, right. I was going to leave that to address it another time. A lot of this is I had to write out in my book because I haven't got my printer, my new printer, connected yet. I'm waiting for my son to arrive on Saturday, and he has multiple jobs to do. And one of them is to put my my printer together, which I bought, gosh, nearly 2 weeks ago now. But this has been sitting here and I just hadn't got to it. So the thought is divine timing. Is your life governed by divine timing? I think the collective thinking creates. And that is why certain things happen that you may not believe or support. Because your individual thinking is different from what the collective thinking is. But you live your life. And that's why when we look at divine timing, it's for the individual. Divine timing is based on how they are working with their thoughts and their decisions. No matter what the rest of the world says, is what you go along with. We go along with many things that we just accept. We don't even contemplate it. We don't even think about it. We just go along. But the reality is how happy we are. It's interesting. He mentions well-being. And when you live in a society, and it's a very close-knit society, say, you may not be happy, but that's your responsibility of being able to work with your unhappiness or those situations that you don't like. How do you come to accept, and what do you decide to do about it? What do you decide in the direction? And I think that's all I want to really comment about that today. It's not my usual talk. It's not my usual way of looking at things. And it's taking somebody else say, can you address this? And so I haven't, hey, I like challenges. There's no doubt about it. So I'm hoping that makes sense to you so that you begin to gain a little bit more about what was put in this is about the collective, which is the area that you work and live in, the people of your place, and there's different communities. You can have a community that you stand out like I've always been the oddball, so because I believe in this power, I believe in the love source, I believe in many things that even in my field people think. Because I've read tarot for many years, and I'm not just do prayer or contemplation, because I read, and there's many things that I do. I really was going to sit down and talk about past life regressions today, but then it really came to me. I've had this for a couple of weeks, and I've been waiting for my printer so I could print it out and really see it. So having to write it out by hand has been fun. But anyway, think about that. Define timing. Is there such a thing? I think from the collective point of view, there is. I think when everybody is thinking in one way, I know that next Wednesday when I do my reading for next month, I'm going to be very interested to see what comes up, because I've been watching through the last few months. If you haven't been listening to those ones, it's very interesting what's beginning to happen out in the world. So it's always fascinating what is happening out there, which is basically, as my watcher said, the collective, how the collective works. And how much influence do we have? But we have influence in ours. And divine timing in relation to our world occurs. Therefore, divine timing occurs in the greatest sense because there's more thought going into whatever that result. And if you look at your world, if you look at your news, if you look at anywhere, you see that taking place, ideas changing, people holding different viewpoints, people coming together saying, oh, I support this or support that, or etc. Me, I know for me, myself, that there is a love source that loves you, that you put out ideas that, and the love source will do what it can to give you that. But as I said, one point, just a little back further, was you can't be too tight on it. You can't dictate how, what, when, and where. And that's where the miracles occur. That's where prayer works. That's where an understanding. That's why our mental mind treatments on Monday, so many people come back and say how much that has helped, how much that has worked, is because we put an energy in that and we let it go. We don't say it has to be this way. We let the universe do its work. Oh yeah, some understanding goes in there for sure. We need to understand the process of being, what exactly is behind some of these situations in life. But the divine love source that loves each one of us incredibly is there to support and to bring you what you can, if it can. Now, when we come to these large collectives thinking, they want it like it's, I think, this is me, that what happens is they come, what I saying individually, please watch out for, this way, that way, this, that, it's going to be this, and this. So is that divine timing? I don't think it's divine timing. It's created timing. And that's what happens a lot. But individually, you have divine timing because you let go. And, there's a saying we used to have, and on my trainings, let go and let God. Let go, let God. You can use any word you want for God, but it's like that big, supreme love, to me, love source, because I know it exists. You hand it over. This is what I want. May happen, may not. I found it usually did. And it happened better than I even thought because I let go and let God, so to speak. Well, it's a different talk today. And thank you. Some people came in and left. Some people stayed. And Kayla, oh, you've got loads of comments in here. And I'm just reading them quickly so I can understand all these great wishes. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And all the thumbs up. I love it. Just remember, if you can, two of you giving thumbs up, I appreciate that. I never have pushed that, but some friends of mine said, no, you gotta remind people to give you the thumbs up because it makes a big difference on what else is happening and as we grow. And by the way, if some of the new subscribers, we're getting 1 or 2 every week now, please keep coming. I appreciate that. What else? I think that's it. I'll be back on Sunday. Actually, I'm looking forward to this weekend because my son's coming up and he's got a list of things that he will help me with because there's many things I can't physically do at this time. But he's always great when he's here. So on Sunday, he'll still be here. And it's so funny because he comes and he sits quietly in the background while I'll be doing my Sunday thought. You just have a great day and think about divine timing. Do you have divine timing things happen? And I like that thought what's more important, the individual well-being, which of course I would say yes, or collective well-being. If the well-being of the individuals are there, the collective will be absolutely great. So, and yes, the collective can be happy, but the individual is not. And that's his or her responsibility. Blessings. Have a great few days now, and I'll be back on Sunday. Bye now.